Well, hey guys, happy Friday. Thank you for coming back to the Q&A Friday, where I'm going to be addressing your skincare related questions as they've come throughout the week on the vlogs. If you're new here, welcome. I encourage you to subscribe for Day in the Life of a Dermatologist vlogs. I also post skincare related sit-down content, and something fairly new that I've been doing are these weekly Friday Q&As where I kind of address skincare related questions as they've come throughout the week on the vlog. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get started. I got a lot of great questions from you guys this week, as always. A question that came through from a fair number of you this week was with relation to the pH of soap, and do I recommend buying little pH test strips to test your soaps and cleansers? I don't recommend that routinely. It never entered my brain to advise people on. So your classic bar soap, like Ivory soap for example, is a fatty acid salt in a bar form, and usually these soaps have a very alkaline pH, and the fatty acid salt dissolves dirt and oil molecules and helps remove them from the surface of the skin. However, this harsh pH disrupts the natural acid mantle of the surface of the skin. Furthermore, these soaps do not distinguish between dirt, oil, and the natural oils of your skin. So they tend to really dry out the skin quite a bit. In fact, I don't even really advocate using bar soaps like this. Unless you've been advised to by your provider. So recognition of the need to kind of keep the skin at a pH of roughly 5.4 is what has given rise to a lot of facial cleansers and a lot of non-soap soaps, for example. So most cleansers over the counter have maybe like 10% actual soap in them, while the remainder of the ingredients are, a variety of moisturizers and emollients to keep the skin hydrated while simultaneously removing dirt and oil. And those products tend to be within the pH range of anywhere from 5 to 7. And so soaps, disrupt the acid mantle. They strip some of the natural oils off the skin. And so many cleansers and facial cleansers are formulated in such a manner to simultaneously try and remove dirt and oil with as minimal amount of actual soap as possible, or no soap, and while also moisturizing the skin. The less actual soap that the product contains, the more you then physically have to abrade the surface of the skin to remove the dirt and oil, because you don't have that kind of carrier component. And so as a follow-up to that, I'm also getting a lot of questions on my thoughts on the double cleanse method, which involves applying an oil-based cleanser to remove dirt and oil and makeup first, and then following it up with a gentle cleanser afterwards. It makes logical sense to me in the progression of removing dirt and oil with oil and then following it up with a gentle cleanser, because you do not want to leave the oil component on the surface of your skin. It's not something that has been rigorously studied, compared in any kind of research setting. So I don't have a straightforward answer for you as to which is better. There's just not data looking at this kind of thing. As a follow-up to that, I got a fair number of questions about my thoughts on cold cream, or like Pond's cold cream, for example, and is that a good cleanser? So old school cold cream is essentially wax and mineral oil with a detergent, namely borax, which gives it that white component. And this is very, very well tolerated for dry or inflamed skin, as a way to remove dirt and oil without drying the skin out. And it can be quite effective. If you have oilier skin, you may not like this. Someone asked, could this be used as the oil step in the double cleanse method? My understanding is that the double cleanse method is an oil only step first, whereas cold cream does have a few other ingredients like waxes and what have you. Whichever approach you're taking, do know that if you have oily skin or acne prone skin, these oil-based cleansers and cold cream can potentially clog your pores and kind of drive the acne a little bit more. So if you tend to be in the oilier spectrum of things, you may not like them. They could tend to feel quite heavy. Okay, then I also got a fair number of very smart questions about sunscreen as a follow-up to last week's Q&A. So a lot of you viewers are based in the United Kingdom, which is fantastic. This is what I love about YouTube, is the global reach. It's really phenomenal, and I'm learning a ton from you guys. And the first question that I got was, what are my thoughts on the once a day sunscreen, and specifically P20 and Ultra Sun? So I would caution you against falling for the claim that a sunscreen is effective all day, and I would still reapply these sunscreens consistently throughout the day. My understanding from consumer testing is that they really haven't withstood this claim of being effective for that long. But furthermore, I'll point out that it's actually quite dangerous to not reapply, because say you miss a spot, or say you put the sunscreen on a spot that subsequently gets rubbed and the sunscreen is rubbed off, and then you're under the impression that you're good to go all day. Well, that's a setup for failure. And the British Association of Dermatologists concur with this, that you should not rely on these claims, and that you should reapply the sunscreens. And in fact, in Australia, this labeling claim is prohibited on sunscreens. A sunscreen can't say that. And as I've said on here before, a multi-pronged approach to sun protection is most prudent, wherein you don sun protective clothing, reapply the sunscreen as best you can, and avoid the sun during peak hours. So that brings me to the next question, which was fantastic, and that is, what are peak hours? Well, that's going to vary depending on your geographic location and the time of the year. In general, the hours between 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. standard time, or 11 a.m. 4 p.m. daylight savings time, are sort of peak hours. Another kind of clue, if you will, is if you look at your shadow when you're outdoors and your shadow is shorter than you, well, then you best don that coolie bar and reapply. And the third thing that I want to share with you is something that I really love. It's an app, because who doesn't love apps? And it's the World UV app. This is something that you can download the app, and I'll just put the link down below so you guys can access this. It's completely free, and it's really quite easy. And you just put in my location. This is tracking me, so it knows where I am. We'll just do London, for example. Right now, it's late evening, I believe, in London, and it has the UV index of 1, which means no protection required. It's quite low, okay? But if I put in my location, Houston, we get a 5 right now. So we're in the yellow, protection required. However, a few hours prior, I tapped this in and we were in the red. So it kind of gives you the UV index by numeration. It also gives you a little pictorial of kind of the level of protection that you should have. Highly, highly helpful. And this is basically, you can search anywhere in the world. It's fantastic. But anyways, I just wanted to share that with you all, because I think it's really helpful. I also got a question about waxing versus shaving the face, and which one do I recommend? I recommend shaving your face. Waxing is incredibly irritating to the skin, and oftentimes, if you've ever had a wax, you'll notice a few days later you break out. This is an irritant dermatitis that results from your skin and your immune system basically going, ow! It's not true acne at all. It's a reaction to the trauma that your skin has just undergone. If you follow my vlogs, you know I do wax my eyebrows, because I don't think I have the skill set to shave my eyebrows in that manner, and I almost always have some sort of adverse effect from the waxing, whether it be persistent redness or the acne-like irritation rash. I'm not okay with skipping that, because I turn into a Sesame Street character quite quickly. Shaving cannot in any manner influence the hair cycle. This is governed by a variety of growth factors and a complex interaction between the bottom bottom between the base of the hair and the underlying dermis of the skin. And simply just cutting the hair does not influence that whatsoever. It may feel coarser to you as it's growing back because you have cut it on a blunt end, whereas it normally grows tapered, but it does not make it grow back thicker, coarser, or darker. I got a great question on Instagram for my recommendations for skincare for combination skin on the face, with patches of dry skin, but also kind of oily, potentially T-zone areas. Make sure you're removing your makeup each evening and any sunscreen from the day with a gentle cleanser, and I can link some down below. And then the second tip is to not neglect your moisturizer out of fear of making your pores more noticeable, or out of a fear of making your oiliness or shininess more noticeable. The opposite is actually true. When we neglect to moisturize the skin and or we aggressively attempt to exfoliate the skin or peel the skin, oftentimes our oil glands react by producing more oil and making the shine more noticeable. So that would be tip number 2. Tip number 3 is one that applies to all skin types, and that is do not neglect a broad spectrum sunscreen, as sun can kind of exacerbate some areas of redness and dryness throughout the day, as well as contribute to your risk of skin cancer. Dry patches kind of around the nose, around the mouth, maybe on the forehead. This can actually be related to a little yeast that naturally lives on our skin, who contributes to dandruff and something called seborrheic dermatitis. This may or may not be a problem for you. To evaluate your shampooing habit, because this little yeast that naturally lives on our skin really thrives in the oil-bearing surfaces of our skin. The more frequently you're able to shampoo the scalp, it kind of cuts down on the amount of this little yeast. Shampoos that are good for this problem can also be used on the face in these areas, and they contain the ingredient zinc pyrithione, which is commonly found in Head & Shoulders shampoo. It can be lathered on the face, left in place, and then rinsed off. And in terms of how you use it in the scalp, you would do it similarly. Just lather it up in the scalp, let it sit on there for a few minutes, and then rinse it off. Something I really want to strongly encourage everyone to do is to just go on a little makeup fast and avoid all makeups for a while and kind of give your skin a little detox. I think it's a good idea to just completely take a break from all makeup, all foundation for a week if you can tolerate it, or at least a few days a week, no makeup. So I've also gotten a fair number of questions about sunscreen use and aggressive sun protection predisposing us for potentially vitamin D deficiency. I made a video addressing this topic, which I'll link down below. Okay, so we absolutely know that vitamin D is important in bone health, and we have growing evidence that vitamin D helps support the immune system and is potentially very important in preventing diseases like autoimmune disease. However, we don't know what that level is, and all of this data is still in the growing phase. Okay. Point number 2 is that it is well established from long-term data from many different populations that ultraviolet radiation from the sun causes skin cancer. We also have very good evidence that wearing a broad spectrum sunscreen can decrease the risk of these skin cancers. And the third point is that we have no evidence that vitamin D deficiency is caused by or exacerbated by the use of sunscreen. We also don't know what the best level of vitamin D is for overall health. We also don't know how much sun exposure would be necessary to get to that level without increasing your risk of skin cancer. Furthermore, you can get vitamin D from your diet. If you are vitamin D deficient or concerned that you are vitamin D deficient, talk to your healthcare provider about the best way to supplement that. But currently, the evidence for recommending sun exposure is lacking. I got a question also from my Instagram about hydroquinone containing ingredients that are often recommended or prescribed for dark spots on the face. Is this an ingredient that is safe? And so yes, hydroquinone is a ingredient found in things that you can purchase over the counter, like Ambi-Fade cream, for example. Or you may get a prescription for a cream containing hydroquinone at a slightly higher percentage strength. Hydroquinone is safe when applied to the skin. However, it should not be used continuously for more than 16 weeks. One potential adverse effect of it is something called pseudoochranosis, which is a type of disfiguring skin rash that can occur on the face. The second thing that you have to know about hydroquinone is that it inherently causes quite a bit of irritation in the skin, and in doing so, increases your susceptibility to sun-related changes and sun-related discoloration. So if you are using a hydroquinone containing ingredient for dark spots on the face and or melasma, it is critical, it is essential that you exert very, very, very diligent sun protection. So we had a lot of fantastic questions this week, so many so that I couldn't quite fit them all into one video. And so I'm going to go ahead and film next week's Q&A now and get it up and ready to go live next Friday. So stay tuned for that. The best place for me to see questions for the Q&A is within the comment section of this video and or the comment section of next Friday's video. And the nice thing about putting it in the comments here is that they're kind of collated in a uniform place for me to see them when I'm sitting down to think about addressing them and how to effectively address them. So that would be what I would ask of you all, is to keep your comments here, and that way I can make sure and get to as many of them as possible. And if you see a question in the comments that you like, and make sure and thumbs it up, because if I see that a question's gotten a lot of thumbs up, I'll definitely try and address that one. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed today's Q&A. Thank you so much for tuning in. Give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next Friday. Bye.